poem with you guys today, but before I share a poem, I think I'm going to share my testimony, because after hearing these testimonies of what God's done, I just thought it's really important just to, just so you can see how far God's brought me and how far He can bring all of us, really. Amen. So basically, like a lot of people, I wasn't brought up with my dad around, which is usually the situation for most of us. Sorry, I'm really nervous. And I've also been given by my fiance, he's told me not to cry, so I'm going to try not to cry either. But yeah, I was brought up without my dad around, and I was desperate. I was desperate for that male attention that I didn't have at home. So, as a teenager, I was, like the young lady that's shared earlier, I was out there looking for love as well, and I wasn't in a good place. Just like her, I was, as they call it, promiscuous. I didn't have any care for myself, I didn't love myself. I used to look at myself in the mirror and hate what I used to see. I didn't even want to live. That's how I felt during that time. Then I was, at the age of 15, I tried a spliff. I'd never smoked before, but I tried a spliff, and from that moment, I started suffering really bad with panic attacks, to the point where I ended up in hospital because I kept bringing my blood pressure up, and I was told that if I carry on, this was the age of 15, if I carry on, if I was a couple months older, they would have put me in a madhouse. I started believing that I had a brain tumour. I actually believed I was going mad. And they wanted me to speak to someone, but God delivered me from all that. I didn't really speak to anyone. At the age of 16, I got stabbed by a girl, literally in my back with a knife. She tried to kill me. And before I got stabbed, about 10 minutes before I got stabbed, my best friend just randomly swapped coats with me. And then when I got to the hospital, sorry.
Go on, come on, Sean, you got this.
The doctor said that it was a jacket that saved my life.
Amen.
But I know now that it was God.
Yes.
But even at that time, I was still really ignorant. I knew that it was God, but I was still ignorant. I still wanted to live the life that I was living, even though I wasn't happy. And I used to go out to the clubs. I used to sit in my car outside the club, neck a whole bottle of wine just so I could feel better about myself when I go in there. And I used to walk in the club. The girls would look at me and I'd be like, yes, whatever. And the guys would be like, yes, I wanna. And I used to act like I was confident, but I wasn't. And then after the club, I'd go home and I'd cry myself to sleep most nights. And then I wasn't going to share this, but my friend said I should share everything, and I shouldn't be ashamed of my past.
That's right. Amen.
When I was 19, I got into dancing, and I'm not on about the one that you see on TV or the professional dancing that you see on TV. It's the other kind of dancing, and that's because I didn't have any self-worth, and it's like when I used to be in that place, just for the attention that I was getting, I needed that, I craved it. So when I was in that place, it's like that attention that I was getting, I needed it, and that's how I got by. But after time, I started to hate it, and I didn't realise that a year before I stopped, when I started hating it,
Amen.
It was God that was working. Amen. He started to change me and started to make me really, really hate it. And up until I stopped as well, yeah. I remember one time I was at home, and I don't know how I ended up finding this TV channel, but I found UCB Gospel, I think it was 0135. Amen. And I'd come back from the club, from working, dancing, and I found that gospel channel, and I'd hear these beautiful songs about this person called Jesus.
Amen.
And every time I heard the songs, I used to start crying. And I don't even know why I was crying, but I was just crying. And I wanted to know this Jesus, but then I still was ignorant. And then, when I got saved, I was at the club working, and I remember I said to the manager, I need to leave her early tonight. I was like, I need to go to church tomorrow. And I'd not been in church. I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, I need to go to church in the morning. And he said to me, you go to church? If you was to walk in a church, you'd set on fire. That's what he said to me. And I was like, I don't care, I need to go to church. And I tell you that when I walked out of that club, I never ever went back. I was telling my friend this story today actually. I was just saying that the day that I went to church that morning, I remember the lady was just preaching, it was wonderful, and I heard the words. And I remember saying, if you want to give your life to Jesus, put your hands in the air. And I didn't even know what it meant to give your life to Jesus, I didn't even know what that was. But I just remember my arm being in the air, and I don't remember physically lifting my arm up, I just remember it being there. And so she called me to the front, and she said, I want you to say this prayer after me, repeat this prayer. So as I started to say the prayer, I started crying uncontrollably, and I can actually say, I actually felt like a weight lift off my shoulders. And I know it sounds really cliche, like a weight lift off my shoulders, but I felt something physically lift off my shoulders that day in church. Yeah. So yeah, God's changed my life now. Obviously we all have our issues still as Christians. Just because you're a Christian, it doesn't mean your life's going to be perfect, but I know that when I do go through things, God's going through it with me, and I don't need to worry. So yeah, He's changed my life completely. He uses me, He used me to share poetry, He's used me to go to events where I'm talking with women, and I'm having women that are older than me, twice my age, asking me for advice. I'm like, Lord, I'm nothing, like why would you use me? But He uses, as I say, the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise. So yeah, he's really, really changed my life around. When I didn't have any self-worth and I had a bad name for myself, everyone knew who this girl was, all the men knew this girl, and I didn't have any self-respect, no one respected me. And now, I'm engaged to get married next year as well. So. I'm saying here, I just come say it's not me, it's God. I didn't do anything, He found me. And that's why I'm going to share this poem now. It's called I Know How It Feels. Alright, let's stop there. I know how it feels to be lost. Lost in situations and lost in life. When you try to look ahead, but all you see is darkness, trouble, pain and strife. When you try to relive your past thinking maybe, just maybe, you can find happiness there. But then realising that even in the days of your past, nobody seemed to care. I know how it feels to be lost. When you try and hold on to someone that you should have let go of a long time ago. Allowing them to walk away from you, never feeling so low. Going to the clubs drinking, trying to numb the pain that you feel inside. But then falling for the next person that approaches you because your vulnerable heart is open wide. I know how it feels to be lost. When you look in the mirror and you hate the person that you see looking back at you. Being told many times how worthless you are, that you start to believe it's true. Maybe things would be easier if I weren't here. I say to myself as I begin to cry. But then that idea soon goes out of my head. Because I'm also afraid to die. I know how it feels to be lost. Yes, I know how it feels to be lost. But I also now know how it feels to be found. When God's salvation frees you from the things that used to have you bound. Intimacy with my Lord, His presence with mine. Spending time in His presence, shivers running down my spine. That now, when I look in the mirror, it's no longer me I see, but Him. Brightness in the brown eyes which looking back at me, which were once very dim. Looking forward to a future which I once dreaded from the day of my birth. But God's now opening doors which were once closed, and closing doors which should never have been opened, revealing to me my worth. I know how it feels to be found. The question is, do you? Thank you.